Alrighty, folks, welcome back to Technical Knockout, the MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, Hussein, and today we are going to be talking about Taira versus Brandon Royval. We are also going to recap UFC 307 briefly. It was a pretty eventful card with two title fights at the top of it. Unfortunately, we did not do well on the picking side. Again, having a losing record of 2-4. A couple of our underdogs hit, which was cool. But we did not get a couple of those fights right. And a couple of fights that I thought we got right, the judges saw it the other way. But, that's MMA for you. You can't blame it on anybody else but yourself for getting involved in this kind of bullshit. But yeah, so let's start off at the top. First off, amazing performance and show of heart from Khalil Rountree. I was very impressed and very proud of him, honestly. He's somebody that we've seen in the UFC for a long time. We've seen him have ups and downs, getting beaten by guys like Andrew Sanchez and Johnny Walker and Marcin Prachnio and Iwan Cutelaba. These are some of the worst fighters. I mean, Andrew Sanchez is pretty decent. These are some of the worst fighters in the UFC, and Khalil has losses to them. I think it's apparent that he fights to the level of his competition, or at least to, if he's fighting somebody that he thinks he's going to smash, he might have a little bit of trouble against them. If he's fighting somebody who he thinks is going to be really tough or really, really proven, he shows up in a big way. He showed up in his last few fights. Although I felt like Dustin Jacoby won the fight that they had with each other, he certainly showed up on Saturday. Taking 2 rounds off of Alex Pereira is no easy feat. I think the only person that has really taken rounds off him is Adesanya in the first fight that they had, and he ended up getting knocked out in that fight. I mean, Khalil got knocked out as well, but he went through hell, man, and it was a great performance from him, honestly. Won a lot of fans, I'm sure. Almost knocked out Pereira at one point when Pereira threw that question mark kick and Rountree circled out and hit him with that big right hand. You saw Pereira, he got hurt. He got dropped. Like his legs, he lost his legs for a second. Big props to Khalil. And on the Pereira side, he said after the fight that he was dealing with a few different ailments and injuries and illnesses coming into the matchup, and I really believe him. I don't, sometimes when fighters don't have their best performance, they kind of make excuses for that, Valentina Shevchenko. But I really felt like Pereira was telling the truth. It looked like he was getting exhausted as the fight got on, and I mean, being in Salt Lake City, that's natural. Khalil obviously was the more tired fighter. He's somebody who's had cardio issues in the past. And really to get inside of Pereira's reach, he had to really explode and go very hard in those combinations. And I think that's, what took a lot of the energy out of his sails, a lot of the wind out of his sails. That being said, when Pereira, when the momentum shifted in that third and fourth round, especially in the fourth round when he got the stoppage, but in the beginning of that fourth round, my goodness, man, Pereira, like, he sees Khalil is starting to fade, and he just pours it on him. He just ends up in the Matrix. It was incredible. Like, there was a point, I think, like, a minute into the round or so, where Pereira, like, tagged him with a few good shots, and Khalil comes back swinging with, like, these wild hooks trying to take his head off, and Pereira just, like, slides right back out of the way and hits him with another few good shots. And it was like, god damn, like, he was in the zone right there. It was beautiful to watch. Watching Pereira, put in work like that, it's a thing of beauty, man. And it really just shows the testament of, like, what a high-level striker can do, in the UFC against guys who, even though they are great strikers in their own right, don't have that caliber of credentials, So, great win from Pereira. I think this is the kind of fight that he needed. Not that he hasn't been pushed in other fights. Even his first fight in the UFC, he was pushed by Michailidis with the takedowns. Obviously, he was pushed when he fought Adesanya in the first fight and in the second fight. The first fight because he was losing rounds, and the second fight because he got knocked out. So, that's pretty big adversity. Against Blachowicz, he fought through some adversity as well. I think there's an argument to be made that Blachowicz won that fight, but I'm not mad at the decision either way. And in this fight, I think he faced the most adversity he faced in the octagon. Genuinely losing rounds, convincingly losing rounds, getting dropped, getting hurt, or maybe not hurt, but getting tagged. So yeah, I mean, I think this is the kind of fight that he needs. He needed rather. He was just going through smoking these guys, smoking Yuri Prochazka, smoking Jamal Hill. And while that's awesome, it was like we didn't get to see much, and we saw a lot on Saturday. We saw a lot of heart. We saw a lot of great combinations. We saw great distance management from Pereira, and more than anything, the IQ of knowing when to go for it, when to back off, when to keep the pressure on. It was a beautiful performance, man. It was a great fight altogether and a beautiful performance either way. Got fight of the night, which is very rightfully deserved. Yeah, I mean, moving forward, I think the obvious matchup is Pereira versus Ankalaev. Obviously, Ankalaev is fighting Alexander Rakic. I think Rakic has a great chance of beating Ankalaev, honestly, better than what people are giving him, but I do expect Ankalaev to win that matchup, and I think they'll make that fight coming up. I think Pereira needs a little bit of time off. He's dealing with some injuries, dealing with some illnesses, I should say. And I think we see him come back probably April, March, April next year. Give him like 5, 6 months. I think that's fair. So yeah, going down the card or for Roundtree, I should spell out his future or potential future as well. I think keep him in the top of the division. Obviously, I think he proved his worth and then some on Saturday. I think giving him somebody like Yuri Prochazka or Jamal Hill or the loser of Ankalaev versus Rakic, I think either of those fights are great for him. He's obviously going to need some time off. His face is a mess. He got cut up really bad in that third and fourth round. So yeah, give him some time off. Let him come back to a top five opponent for sure. I think this is similar to like Steve Erceg, who before the fight nobody was really giving him a chance, and then in the fight against the champion, I should say, nobody was giving him a chance, and then in the fight he proved himself and then some, almost winning. I think there's an argument to be that Erceg did win, but either way, I think that solidifies their position in the top of the division. Sometimes these guys take a step up, and it's very apparent why they're ranked where they are, and then sometimes it just goes to show that sometimes people just need an opportunity, and I think that's what Khalil Roundtree showed on Saturday. So I think putting him in the top five, putting him in the mix is a great move, and I think him versus Hill would be awesome, or Hill versus Prochazka. Any combination of Hill, Prochazka, Roundtree, Blachowicz. Light heavyweight has some good problems right now, So let's be excited about the division that's been dead for a few years, with this fucking God of War at the top of it right now. So going down the card, Pena versus Pennington, man. I expected the fight to be a dogfight. I expected it to be back and forth. I expected Pennington and Pena to be both winning rounds off of each other. I didn't expect the level of dominance from either side that we saw. I thought it was going to be it was a close fight in terms of the round scoring, but the rounds that either woman won, they won very convincingly, Round two and round three, I think you give to Pena. Obviously, she took her down with that body lock and just held her down for like 3 minutes at a time. Not something that I thought we would see from Pennington, honestly. She's usually pretty good at stopping the takedowns. I think she got a little overzealous in some of those clinch exchanges, going for knees and stuff where she really shouldn't have been. And then fourth and fifth round, holy shit, Raquel Pennington put it on Pena. I mean, she dropped her in the fourth. That was the first time Pennington's ever gotten a knockdown in the UFC, and it was fucking hype, dude. It was awesome when she hit that lead stance head kick from the lead leg, I should say. That was amazing in the beginning of the fourth, and then she rocked her with that overhand right. It was fucking sick. It was beautiful. It's honestly really fun and exciting to watch Raquel Pennington go to work whenever she is in the driver's seat. I love her style. And fifth round, she put the pressure on her. She did take more punches in that fifth round than she did in the fourth, but I thought it was clear she landed the better shots in that round, and I gave the fifth round to Raquel Pennington without any hesitation. So my opinion, it came down to the first round. In the first round, Pena landed some good volume. She was not able to get a takedown, not that I remember. But Pennington landed the better shots, in my opinion. She landed that step-in uppercut. She had Pena moving back most of the round. I remember going into the third round, or I'm sorry, going into the fourth round and thinking that it was 2-1 Pena. So Pena had won the second and third, and Raquel had won the first. And going into the fifth round thinking that it was 2-2, and I think the commentators even said 2-2 going into the fifth. So I was shocked when the judges gave the fight to Pena, considering that if it was 2-2 going into the fifth, and I thought that Pennington clearly won the fifth round, it was kind of bullshit. The word robbery gets thrown around a lot. I think I felt like it was a robbery at the time, but looking back, it's more like the Hendricks GSP fight where it comes down to that first round where it was so close. In my opinion, I felt like Pennington won the first round, but I wouldn't be mad if somebody scored it for Pena. But I do feel like damage overall, or damage is the number one criteria, and I think Pennington certainly landed the more damaging strikes in that first round. So I would give that fight to Pennington for sure. I am upset a little bit because I had Pennington by decision, so it kind of hurt. But I think it's clear that the UFC is trying to push their agenda of having Pena fight Kayla, and I think that'd be a good fight. But it just sucks when somebody that's supposed to win loses on some bullshit scorecards. Yeah, so it just sucks when somebody that's supposed to win loses on a BS decision. So it is what it is. Going down the card, Mario Bautista and Jose Aldo had a great fight. At least it was a great fight if you're a Jose Aldo fan. Not a great decision, but I felt like Aldo put on a great performance. He landed incredible strikes, I should say. That jab was like a piston. It was awesome. The Jose Aldo's jab looked as good as it's ever looked. Bautista landed a few good like flying knees that pushed back Aldo, but largely this fight was spent with Bautista holding Aldo against the fence when he couldn't get the takedown. It was very frustrating to watch, especially in that third round where the ref broke them up for stalling and Bautista immediately shot for the same position. It was exhausting. It just sucks when you see a legend lose a decision based on cage control and knees to the thigh. It's kind of bullshit, honestly. I felt like Aldo won the fight. I obviously picked Aldo in the preview pod. I had him by decision as well. So another fight where the judges kind of robbed me, but it was a close fight. It was really close, and I don't think it's like that crazy of an argument to be made that Bautista won. I just felt like he won in such a shitty way. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. I feel like his stock doesn't go up from this, and I think Aldo stock is right where it was. I think they're going to give him another high, ranking opponent after this, similar to how they did when he fought Marlon Moraes. But yeah, so I mean, very close fight. And I felt like Aldo did enough, but it is what it is. I think 5 rounds probably would not have been good for Aldo. So, yeah, whatever. I mean, Bautista had a good performance, honestly. That first round he was in Aldo's face the whole time, pushing forward, throwing the volume. Second round, Aldo won for sure. Third round, I felt like Aldo won as well. He did more damage, and the stalling from Bautista certainly didn't help his case, but, it was enough to win win the fight on the judge's mind. Not much more I want to talk about that fight. Dolidze versus Holland, quick doctor stoppage from that rib injury. It sucks. It is what it is, though. Kayla Harrison did not look great against Ketlin Vieira. Ketlin Vieira has really good takedown defense and showed that off in this fight, but the few times that Harrison was able to get her down, she held her down. Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything from Harrison or Pena that makes me think that they would beat Nunes if Nunes came back. Nunes teased on her Instagram a comeback today. She said, like, Dana White, call me. I'm waiting for your call, something like that. So I think if she fights either one of those women, she beats them up. Kayla just doesn't seem to have the striking, first off, and honestly the takedown game to really do a lot of work against Nunes. I think Nunes would batter her. But, the Kayla by decision prop cashed, so we're happy about that. Buckley knocked out Thompson. That was hard to watch. It sucked, but, we expected Buckley to do well in this fight because of the youth and explosiveness, and the fading athleticism of Stephen Thompson was ever more apparent in this matchup. It's not like he's not quick anymore because he still has very fast hands. He was still able to catch Buckley coming in several exchanges, but you can tell that he can't evade the way that he used to. He used to be able to slide out very quickly out of positions when people hold him against the cage, and that's kind of been lost on him these last few years, and it is what it is. Everybody gets old eventually, and unfortunately for Thompson, that time is now. Lucindo versus Rodriguez. I kind of felt like Marina Rodriguez won this fight, but it was very close. Lucindo looked decent, but she was getting cracked in a lot of exchanges on the feet. When she got the takedown, Rodriguez looked completely lost, which is probably why the judges gave it to her. It's just like it's crazy that this is still such a big hole in Marina Rodriguez's game. Is the grappling. It sucks. It's so bad. But that's the difference between a top 10 fighter and a champion. I don't think we're ever going to see Marina Rodriguez reach those heights while there's people like Tatiana Suarez and Wei Li and even to a lesser extent, somebody. I mean, Carlos Esparza just retired, but like even Carlos Esparza would wash Rodriguez. Did they fight? They probably fought. They probably fought, and Marina probably beat her up. Okay, no, yeah, they fought, and Esparza won. So, yeah, I mean, like it's tough for her to get to the top of the division when there's people that can just take her down and do nothing on top and win fights. Hernandez versus Hubbard. I thought Hernandez won very clearly. Hubbard was given a 30-27 by one of the judges. It was fucking crazy. Cesar Almeida versus Zero Portiero. There were so many fouls in that fight. It was disgusting. But Almeida ticket cashed as we thought it would. Spann finished St. Preux in the first round. Another one that hurt to watch. I was pretty high on St. Preux. I thought he was going to be able to turn back the clock again. But unfortunately, Spann was able to get him out in that first round flurry that we said would be the biggest challenge for OSP. Tisha Pennington beat Carla Esparza. That was another super close fight. I thought for sure Carla won at least one round. I think there was an argument for her to make for her to win the third with that late flurry that she had, but I understand giving it to Tisha. And I was happy that they gave Carla that send-off package. She is a legend. She was the first Invicta strawweight champion, first UFC strawweight champion, so certainly a pioneer of the division and of women's MMA in general. So, and two-time champion too. Winning the title like 5 years after you lost it is crazy. Not a lot of fighters can say that they've done that. I can't think of any, honestly. So, I guess John Jones, but he lost it for being an idiot, not for losing. So, happy retirement, Carla. Go enjoy the life with the family. You've earned it, Court McGee ran through Tim Means. He struck with him just long enough and then took him down and took his back and choked him out, or cranked his face, I should say. So that was a good read that we had for Court McGee to be a live dog. I don't understand why they had him at plus 160. I feel like he's looked really good lately. But, happy to make it where we can. Yeah. Overall, pretty decent fight card. I think the main event really saved it, though, and that's something that we keep talking about when Alex Pereira fights, is him saving the card. So, thank you, Alex Pereira. Thank you for your service. And yeah, let's move on to next weekend's card, where we are back, baby. We are so back. We're so back, and we're back in the Apex. You know it. At the top of the card, we do have a 5-round flyweight fight, which is always good fun, even in the small cage with no crowd. You have Brandon Royval versus Tatsuro Taira, and Taira getting his first crack at the top 5, or top 3 even. Royval coming off of that victory over Brandon Moreno, in which he did just enough to get that W. I thought Moreno had won, but it was a very close fight. Now he takes on this surging prospect in Tatsuro Taira, who's coming off of that victory over Alex Perez. I love this matchup. I really do. I feel like Royval has very creative and awkward striking, wild striking, you could say, and he can catch Taira in a lot of positions. Taira kind of leaves his head in the middle a lot. So I could see Royval having a lot of success with the striking. When it comes to the grappling, I feel like Taira is much better at holding position and finding position in the scrambles. I really believe in Taira. I believe in him a lot, and I think his striking looked a lot better than it's ever looked in that last fight against Perez, against the best striker he's fought so far. And, when guys are this young, I think he's only like 24. When guys are this young, yeah, he's 24. Guys are this young, they can improve incredibly between fights, It's been a few months since we've seen him last, and, like I said, he looked incredibly improved in that fight with his striking. So hopefully he's seen more improvements there and can kind of put the pace on, or not put the pace on Royval because it's impossible to do that, but kind of slow the pace of Royval, land some heavier shots, take him down and hold him down. I like Taira in this fight, but I do think it's going to be a very, very hard fight for him. That being said, Royval tends to give up his back in a lot of scrambles. At least he used to. I think it's something that he's kind of shored up a little bit. Moreno was not able to get to those positions. Um, but yeah, he gave up his back a lot in those fights with Pantoja. Obviously, Pantoja is one of the probably the best back taker in the sport. So no harm in being taken down and controlled by him. But I think if Taira can get to those positions, he will take advantage of those holes as well. So I expect this fight to be a close one, but I expect it similar to the Payne and Pennington matchup that we were talking about. The rounds that one guy wins are going to be very clear. So I expect Taira to win a few rounds on the ground, being able to hold down Royval and stifle his scrambles a little bit. And I expect Royval to have some success on the feet. Honestly, I think he can catch Taira with some weird shit that he hasn't seen yet. He's able to catch a lot of guys with weird shit they haven't seen yet. I don't know if he'll be able to put away Taira. I don't know if either guy's really going to get a finish in this fight because both are super tough. Like Taira can take a really good shot so far that we've seen, and Royval we've seen him take damage from some of the biggest hitters in the division and withstand it. And not to mention his cardio is incredible. Training in Denver, full time, and Taira has never shown any issues in the cardio department. He's always done better as the fight goes on. So I'm really excited for this fight. I think this is a great piece of matchmaking. I think the safest bet would be to bet the over. If it's over 2.5, lovely. If they put it over 4.5, I don't know. I might not take a stab at it, but yeah, I think it's a safer bet to bet on the over because both guys are super tough. That being said, it's going to be an awesome fight to watch either way. And if the underdog odds on Royval are really juicy, I'll probably take him to win outright. Going down the card, middleweight co-main event, Brad Tavares versus Jun Young Park. I love this fight, I really do. Jun Young Park, the Iron Turtle, as he's known, is a great grappler, great wrestler, and great clinch fighter. He has decent striking, good pop in his hands for sure, and is very tough, as his name implies, the Iron Turtle. And he takes on Brad Tavares, who is a absolute vet, has not looked great these last few years, but that being said, still is who he is, and who he is a great takedown defense. He has great takedown defense, and he has a great jab. And these are two things that can spell troubles for Jun Young Park if he's not on his P's and Q's. I do expect Jun Young Park to take this. I think he's the younger, fresher fighter. I mean, he's certainly the younger fighter. I think he's the more fresh fighter. I think he has a little bit more gas in the tank, cardio-wise. I think he can push that pace in the second and third round more than Tavares will be able to. And I do expect that to be kind of the difference maker in this fight. I do feel like Tavares' chin is cracked. I think he's, always a hard punch or two away from a knockout loss. So I could see Park getting a finish here, but I can also see Park just kind of holding him against the fence and beating him up there for 3 rounds. So I like Park in this fight. I'm just going to take him money line, but yeah, I think it's going to be a great fight, and I think it's a good way to test Park's skills because the takedown defense of Brad Tavares, like I said, is something like 90%. So against somebody who wants to wrestle a lot like Jun Young Park, I think that's a great matchup for him. So I'm excited for this fight for sure. Next, we have the return of Grant Dawson coming back off of that knockout loss against Bobby Green, and he's fighting Rafa Garcia. Rafa Garcia has very decent boxing and a little bit of jiu-jitsu underneath his belt as well. Beat Clay Guida in his last fight. Take that as you will. And is 4-1 in the UFC otherwise. Not a standout star by any means, but Grant Dawson I think needs this kind of fight coming off of that knockout loss, his first knockout loss in a long time. I think he beat Joe Solecki. I forgot about that, dude. Yeah, he held down Joe Solecki at UFC 301. But yeah, I mean, honestly, this fight can go either way. I could see Grant Dawson getting the wrestling going and just having a very boring Grant Dawson like fight, or I could see Rafa Garcia finding that chin. Yeah, I'm just excited to watch it. Corey McKenna versus Julia Pilastri. Don't know, don't care. Dan Rodriguez versus Alex Morono. This is a pretty solid fight between two decent strikers at welterweight, two aging strikers. Morono is much more the wild man, throwing looping punches and has an awkward stance, and Dan Rodriguez is much more traditional in his boxing approach. I expect Dan Rodriguez to have more success in this fight. Honestly, I think his jab is very crispy, and I think against the looping shots of Morono, he'll be able to find some straight lines down the middle and be able to, kind of piece him up on his way to a decision victory. So I'm taking D-Rod by decision. Abdulrazak Al-Hassan versus Josh Fremd. Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, he's really good, man. He's really good for one round. After one round, he has a big drop-off. But in that first round, he hits like a truck, and he has like a black belt in judo, I'm pretty sure. So the dude has some really nasty throws as well. But what he wants to do is take your head off. Josh Fremd, on the other hand, is very tough and gritty, but has been stopped before. I would not be surprised to see him get stopped here. I would also not be surprised to see him outlast that first round against Al Hassan and get a finish in the second or third when Al Hassan starts to gas inevitably. But I'm leaning on the side of Al Hassan because Fremd has been finished by strikes before. Not super early in the fight. It's typically later in the fight. But, yeah, I mean, I think this is a good matchup either way. Either way, I really don't expect this to go to decision. I think if Fremd starts to put the pace on him in the second and third round, he can get him out of there. And obviously, if Al Hassan gets it done, it's going to be early. So, maybe bet the under or bet that the fight does not go the distance. But I think if Fremd is a big underdog, which I kind of feel like the eye test is going to make him an underdog because Al Hassan's big and scary and explosive, and Fremd is, not that athletic. I think the odds on Fremd, if they're plus 200, would be a good stab to take, especially over 1.5. But yeah, so pretty decent fight there. If you are going to bet on the Abdulrazak side, bet him on my first round. I think that's the way to go. Chidi Njokuani versus Jared Night Train Gooden. I love this fight. Jared Gooden looked better than he's ever looked, in my opinion, in his last fight against Wellington Turman. He had, solid striking. He was rocking Turman, and then he got the finish by submission. So, I was very happy to see him get that done because I felt like there was a little bit of a while there where Jared Gooden kind of looked like he'd hit a wall. Athletically, he looked like he wasn't improving much. So I was happy, he left the UFC, came back. I was happy to see him get that W in his last fight and looked very improved on that Dariush Sarukian card. That was a while ago, huh? That felt like a long time ago. Yeah, that was last December. So, almost a year out. Nothing crazy. He's fighting Chidi Njokuani, who Chidi Bang Bang is a former kickboxer and has some sick knees. He's coming off of a split decision victory over Reese McKee. I remember thinking that he won that fight for sure, but it was pretty close. And before that was on a 3-fight skid. So, kind of been ups and downs for Chidi. I would like to see him get his clinch striking off in this fight. I do feel like Jared Gooden is the better overall fighter, though. And if he is an underdog in this fight, I could see him beating up on Chidi as the fight goes on. If Chidi can't get him out of there early or, hurt him really bad in those first 2 rounds and stack up the points, I could see Jared Night Train Gordon having some real success in that second and third and maybe even getting him out of there at some point because we've seen Chidi gas out. Particularly against Oleg Seychuk, where there was a certain point where he just kind of hit the wall. Was it Oleg Seychuk or was it Rodriguez? Maybe. Okay, it was yeah, Rodriguez because it was in the second round. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm gonna side with Gooden here, but I'm really excited to see this fight either way. I think it's gonna be a very fun matchup at welterweight. CJ Vergara is fighting Ramazan Temirov. They love giving CJ Vergara these tough grapplers, man. It's fucked up. But I do feel like Vergara has a great style to beat some of these grapplers, so I don't know. It might be a fun fight to take a stab at Vergara if he's a big underdog. Otherwise, I'd probably stay away. Jonathan Pierce versus Pat Sabatini. That's a pretty good fight at featherweight. Should be some fun grappling scrambles. Should be some fun grappling scrambles in that matchup. I do think that Pat Sabatini is a bit more proven than Jonathan Pierce. But that being said, Pierce certainly has the more dangerous striking. So that's a fun fight. I don't know which side is really going to get it done. I wouldn't be super confident on either side, given their shortcomings in the octagon and how they've shit the bed before. I mean, Pat Sabatini obviously got knocked out against Diego Lopez, but when he got knocked out against Damon Jackson, I was pretty high on Sabatini coming into that fight, and he got starched. But that was the fight that Damon Jackson, I think his brother, his uncle, or somebody in his family died like a week before that. And in the post fight interview, he was like, you could tell he was fighting for more than just the UFC check that day. You know what I mean? So I have a good feeling that whoever was across from him, he was going to get out of there. That being said, JSP coming off of 2 losses to David Onama and Joe Anderson Brito. Those guys are really, really dangerous, really explosive. And Sabatini just does not fit that bill. I mean, he's a grappler. He's a grappler through and through, and he's a very strong grappler, but he's not very threatening with his explosiveness or his power like Joe Anderson Brito and David Onama are. So Pierce has a little bit of a better matchup for him here, I think. And I kind of do feel like Pierce can get it done because of that striking um, gap that I mentioned. I feel like Pierce is a much better striker than Sabatini is a grappler against him. You know what I mean? Like, Pierce's grappling can handle Sabatini's grappling. Maybe not, I mean, maybe not do well against it, but I think he could survive. I don't know if Sabatini's striking will match up to Pierce's striking. So it's a really interesting fight, and I'm excited to watch it either way. But I think this is a dog or pass situation. Themba Gorimbo versus Nico Price. This is a lock of the night for sure. Themba Gorimbo should get Nico Price out of there with relative ease. He hits pretty hard, and he's also a good grappler, and he's not 80 like Nico Price is. He doesn't move like he's 150 years old like Nico Price does. So unless Nico Price gets some kind of weird knockout, doctor stoppage, or cut or something like that, or an injury, I expect Themba Gorimbo to run through him. I'm going to take Themba Gorimbo first or second round. Chris Barnett versus Junior Tafa. This is a pretty fun fight. I love Chris Barnett. Seeing him in the octagon is always a treat. The dude is huge. He throws wild kicks and big overhands. So that's a pretty fun fighter anytime he's on the card. He's fighting Junior Tafa, who is pretty limited, honestly. Is Junior the older brother or the younger brother? Okay, Junior's the younger brother. The guy that just got heel hooked by Walter Walker like a month ago, like 2 months ago. So yeah, I mean, I expect Chris Barnett to win this fight. I'm sure they're going to have him as a huge underdog. I think Tafa can give him some trouble for sure, but if Barnett has seen any of Tafa's fights, which I'm sure he has, he knows that he can leg kick him and that he can wrestle him. And even though Barnett's not the strongest wrestler, I do think he's a better wrestler than Tafa. So I expect Barnett to win, and if he's an underdog any more than plus 150, I'm going to slam that for sure. Daniel Argueta versus Cody Haddon. That's a fun fight. Fun grappling matchup. Daniel Argueta has looked pretty good in his last few fights. Cody Haddon, coming off the Contender Series not too long ago, had a decent performance there. So that should be a fun one to watch. Any unranked bantamweight fight is, though. Clayton Carpenter versus Lucas Roca. I'm not too confident on either guy here. I'd probably bet the over, assuming that these guys go to decision. And then it says that there's an announced bout. Terrence McKinney's expected to fight on this card, but they don't know who. So if Terrence McKinney does end up putting on the card in the last minute, I'm taking him by first round knockout or first round finish. Anytime McKinney is fighting somebody unproven or unranked, he tends to destroy them. So yeah, that wraps up this card. Let's go down the betting slip real quick. Honestly, not much this weekend, but it is going to be a really fun card to watch. Maybe not a great card to bet on. So, starting with the main event, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think I'm very confident on either side here. I'd like Taira. I want Taira to win, but Royval is a super dangerous fighter. I'm just gonna go with the over 2.5. Co-main event, I'm taking Junyoung Park with pretty good confidence there. I'll also take Daniel Rodriguez by decision. I'll take Night Train if he's a underdog against JD Njokuani. And I'm definitely going to take Themba Gorimbo first or second round. And give me Chris Barnett if he's an underdog as well. So going down the card again, we're taking over 2.5 in the main event. We're going to take Junyoung Park to win money line. We're going to take Daniel Rodriguez to win by decision, most likely, but money line altogether. We're going to take Jared Gooden money line and Themba Gorimbo first or second round. And then throw in a little Chris Barnett action for the lulz, why not? You know what I mean? Let's see Huggy Bear get it done again. I want to see him do another front flip into a split. So yeah, I mean, that pretty much wraps things up here. Thank you very much for listening and watching. As you can hear in my voice, I'm still kind of getting over this cold. It's fucking crazy. It's been like a month. I don't know what the hell's going on, but it is what it is. Thank you for listening. Sorry for the sniffles and the coughs in the middle, but I appreciate y'all listening and watching, and hopefully we get back to our winning ways this weekend. Appreciate y'all. Take it easy. Much love. Oh, and watch out for that Alexei Oleinik video I'm coming out with very soon. Hopefully. Take it easy, y'all.